So here is the drill sheet for chapter 20. This, by the way, is something that I would have wanted you to do before you do the actual translation homework, because this is just focusing on forming and translating the volitional verbs. And then once you get adept at that, or more adept at it, then going into the full translation of sentences and multiple clauses and an exercise just gets easier. So let's take a look here. Are there any questions that you have that I can answer on the drill sheet? I've got an answer key as well. I can pull that up if you have a question about the key, or if you just want to know how did I decide how to analyze it. We can show you my method.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
I also was struggling with translating all versus low.
Yeah.
So down, most of the way down, you've got identical verbs, everything is identical except for the al and the low.
Mm-hmm.
How do we bring out the difference in English? That kind of difference between shall and will, I struggled with understanding that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. So let me deal with that. So if you're looking at these two forms, I've just highlighted them. We have all TIF code and low TIF code. And as you've noticed, they're both using prefix forms. Okay? And the prefix form has this tav prefix right here, which is characteristic of second person, right? That could be 2ms. It could, by the way, also be 3fs, couldn't it? So those are both possible, just given the inflectional markings. Now, if I'm going with the third feminine singular form, then I need to realize that the all is marking jussive and low is marking imperfect. So anytime I have two forms that are identical and could have been an imperfect or a jussive, then the thing that I need to look at is whether it's being negated or not. And if it is, then which negative particle is going to commit me to one versus the other. My little saying is that all always negates the jussive if the prefix form could have been an imperfect. Okay? So looks imperfect, but if all's in front of it, all always negates a jussive. Okay? When it could have been an imperfect. So that's going to be jussive, and this is the one that's going to be imperfect. Okay, because it has low. If it's 3fs, then I'm going to translate that as a jussive as let her or may she not pakad, right? Which would be a point. If it's, on the other hand, just low plus TIF code, and it's 3fs, then that's going to be just simple she will not. Like, hey, is Bertha going to visit us tomorrow? No, she will not visit us tomorrow. Is there any volitional nuance in that sort of a will not? She will not visit. Is there? No. This is just a futuristic statement, right? Is Bertha coming tomorrow? No, she will not visit us. Okay? I'm not expressing my will that she not visit us. I'm just saying she won't. Okay? So that's how I'm going to translate the third person forms, whether they're jussive or imperfect. You see that different translation value, right? Let her I just switched from a point to visit. Let me do visit. Bertha visiting's nice. Okay? All right. So let her not visit if it's jussive. There, as the speaker, I don't want her to come. Okay? And in the imperfect, low TIF code, I'm just saying she's not coming. It has nothing to do with whether I want that or not. Okay? Now, the other possibility, of course, is that this is a 2ms form. Okay? And when it's second person, then this is me expressing my will by way of a prohibition. Because when I give prohibitions, my prohibitions are directed at you, right? I'm prohibiting you from doing something when I issue a prohibition. And so how am I going to do that? Well, if it's all plus the jussive second person, then I'm going to say something like, hey, don't visit, Bertha. Bertha, don't visit. Stay home. You could cause enough trouble as it is. Okay? So do not visit or don't visit. You told me you were going to come? Don't. Okay? On the other hand, if I'm talking to Bertha and I say LOTIF code and it's an imperfect, what could that, I'm sorry, I'm talking to a guy now, 2MS, right? So, Harold, don't visit me anymore, okay? If it's jussive, it's don't visit. Harold says I'm coming, and I say no, don't visit. Use the jussive. If it's second masculine singular and imperfect as a prohibition, then I'm going to understand that as more of a generic prohibition. You shall not visit. So, Harold is my son. And I say, Harold, let me give you some advice that's going to keep you successful. You shall not visit brothels. Stay away from them. Okay? That is a generic prohibition. You want to stay safe? Stay away from brothels. You shall not visit them, ever. Okay? And then if I'm driving past one for whatever reason and I see Harold about to walk in, I can roll down my window, and in Hebrew I can use all plus the jussive. Don't visit there. Okay? Does that make sense? This is kind of an artificial distinction because, I mean, technically we can use don't for general prohibitions in English.
Wouldn't that be an imperative though?
Well, I can't negate an imperative, right? I can't put lo or all in front of the imperative. Once I've given someone the indignity of chopping off their head, I can't tell them not to do something. So if I want to issue a negative imperative, Hebrew requires me to switch to a second person imperfect or a second person jussive with the appropriate negative particle, all or lo. Okay? Let's take a quick look at the one right before ALTIF code, that is F code, and let's compare it with the one right below LOTIF code, which is F kada. You notice how the first half of each of these is identical, isn't it? FF, FF, F code, F kada. What's different is the backside. I have just the theme vowel, holum, and no suffix. So is this, well, looking at the prefix aleph, which person and gender and number is that? First common singular. For both, right? Have a prefix aleph on the bottom. That's one CS. They're both in the cal stem, because that's the only stem we know. But this one has the additional kamate at the back, whereas the first one did not. It has no ending. So, is the first one cohortative or just the plain old imperfect first common singular? Which is it? Yeah, the first one's imperfect. And if it's imperfect, then I just want to give it a future translation. I will or shall appoint or visit. Okay? On the other hand, with the kamate at the end, I've grown a tail, right? That's cohortative. And I'm going to translate that as let me or may I appoint or visit. Okay? Where I'm expressing my will to do something. All right. We good?
Just a quick question on the way you translated the last one. May I would be a question?
No, it's not a question. It's a statement of my will. So, Like if I say something like, you know, somebody says, you know, life is pretty dreary and it's so politicized, and I just can't wait for the kingdom. And I might express my will to enter the kingdom and say, yes, may we enter the kingdom tomorrow, right? I'm not asking the person I'm talking to take me there. I'm just expressing my will that we all get there, right? And soon. So, again, the meaning of let and may, when we use them for these volitional forms, is not the meaning that's asking permission. It's the meaning of expressing will, okay? Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the midterm,
Yes.
are you just gonna like put this entire chart there and we're gonna have to fill it out? Or is this more like just to help us when we're translating?
Which chart are you talking about?
The one I'm looking at.
Well, yeah, but I can't see what you're looking at.
I'm looking at this drill chart.
Oh, the drill sheet. Well, for the midterm, no. We haven't really talked about the midterm, so I'll talk about that a little bit later, if I can. I don't want to discourage you. I know, I'm just kidding. No. We're gonna do this midterm in 3 parts, so I do need to explain that, but we're not to the point where we're ready to start doing that. We're gonna do a 3-stage midterm. All right, let's take a look at the translation homework, okay? Oh yes, go ahead.
I put I will appoint as well
Yes.
in the sense that, I will appoint.
Yes.
I'm gonna do it.
That's good. That's good. If you put that down and that's what you meant, then I'm happy. I'm happy because that is a way to translate it. I wish there were a way to add oomph to that will. Maybe all caps, underlined, maybe with some kind of an emoji right after it would be a good way to, to indicate that it's not just the, oh, hey, I will visit tomorrow. Hope you're there. It's, hey, I'm going to come see you tomorrow. Billy says, no, don't visit. And I say, no, I will visit you and I will take you out, right? I would use the cohortative for that I will visit you. Mm-hmm. So we have the second to the last one is on the table here for discussion. That's pakodna. Now, take a look at that. Do you see 3 identifiable root letters for this verb, pakodna?
Oh,
Yeah. That is a very typical verb, right? It's our paradigm verb. So my 3 root letters are pakad. That's easy enough. But what I want to point out to you is that when you notice that, there's no prefix before the pay, is there? So the first thing you might want to be thinking if there's no prefix is, well, this could be the perfect, couldn't it? Because the perfect uses suffixes, inflectional endings, but not prefixes. What is another conjugation pattern that we've learned that uses prefix, that uses no prefix? Right. The imperative. The imperfect uses the nutty prefixes, but the imperative does not. And then the participle. Remember, we learned participles. Do participles have prefixes? No. At least not the ones we've learned, right? So here's the question. If this is the perfect, what vowel pointing should I be looking for under root 1? Kametz. An A-class vowel, right? Pa-kad, pa-kada, pa-kata, pa-kat, right? It's pa. Well, I've got a vocal shava here, okay? Now, the cow perfect does get a vocal shava with the heavy endings, tem and ten, but I don't have tem and ten here. So this is not the perfect, okay? Let's go to the participle. What vowel pointing should I normally be looking for with the cow participle? Root 1. What's my vowel? It's to say a pointing or visiting. This was chapter 16. What's the vowel pointing for the participle in root 1? It's a holum. It's a holum. Pokade, pokedit, pokadim, pokadot, po. Okay? So we have papa and we have popo, right? Both of them are authorities in your life. Okay? If papa's coming, you hide. If the popo are coming, you run. That's right. Okay, and then the imperative is the kind of vowel pointing we're seeing here, right? Because with the imperatives, after I chop off the head, I'm left with a shava, right? So it's either a vocal shava or two vocal shavas that have to fix themselves by a red rider mechanism, right? So it's either p or pick, P-code or pick-d, pick-do, p-codna. Okay, and that's what I have here. I have the vowel pointing for the imperative, and then I just need to say, okay, well, what's the ending here? That's the, if it's imperative, it's second person, okay, and it's just a matter of which second person is it? Masculine singular, masculine plural, or feminine plural. Okay, and with that not ending, that's 2FP, second feminine plural. Okay, so that's telling a group of women, appoint, visit. Okay, does that help? And do you have any other questions about that?
Yeah, what's the English then? That's you appoint.
Well, when I give commands to a you, I just have to use the bare verb, right? Appoint.
Appoint.
Yeah. Appoint. Visit. Eat more chicken. All right. So here's the Ross homework for the translation questions. You are asked to translate into English, and then if there are any verbal forms, to parse them. And so we want to work through any of these as necessary. Any parsings that you have questions with, or translating the whole thing or part of it. So what do you got? Okay, number 9. Someone wants to do number 9. Let me read this out loud, and if you would be so kind as to sound it out or mouth it in your mouth, it goes like this: Kivtsu et ha'am v'echrata v'rit itam. Okay, so do I have any identifiable verbs with 3 root letters in the beginning of 9? You see anything? Yeah, kavat. Kavat is a verb that we've learned. So there's my 3 root letters, okay? Notice there is no prefix in front of the kavats. So this could be, what 3 possibilities? Perfect, participle, or imperative, right? All of them are lacking prefixes in Hebrew, in the Cal. So, the most important thing to look at is the vowel pointing under root 1, okay? And notice I have kivtsu, a Keurig. So which one is that? That's the imperative, right? That's the imperative. And the imperative has a shurik on the backside. So that's which imperative? It's 2ms, 2fs, 2mp, or 2fp? It's 2mp. I'm talking to a group of you, plural, male, right? So what does kavatz mean? To gather. Okay, so I need to issue this as a command to y'all. Gather, hey guys, gather. Okay, and then I have et ha'am, which is telling me what to gather. Gather what? The people. Okay, now if I'm starting with an imperative over here, what I have to reckon with is in the very next clause. Let me go ahead and highlight the verb so that you can see how I have clauses beginning with our verb forms here. Okay, so I've got gather and then a vav with ek ratha. So here's one question for you. Is this a WCI or a vayiktol? Look at that form. Is that a WCI or a vayiktol form? No. Do you see the vocal shava under the vav? There's no pathak or kametz, which is what I'm going to get with a vayiktol, right? So this vayiktol is the WCI. Okay, those are just different terms that are used interchangeably. Vayiktol is just how it sounds when you're using katal as your paradigm verb. Vayiktol. Okay, he killed. Vayiktol. So.
Your question was, is it a WCI or a WCP?
No, I'm just asking, is it a WCI? I know my verb is karat. That is an identifiable set of root letters. And it's got a nutty prefix, right? It's got a prefix aleph. So I know that can't be a WCP because WCPs do not have prefixes. They're using the perfect conjugation. And the perfect conjugation does not have nutty prefixes, okay? I'm seeing a nutty prefix. The prefix is with the imperfect. And I've got a vav here. So my possibilities are that this is a WCI or it's a prefix conjugation form with just a regular vav. That's my choice. So again, is this vav the special vav of the WCI pointing? WCI or vayiktol, those both are the same thing. So does this have the special vav on it? No, this is the normal vav. It's the vav with the simple vocal shava, which is what vavs come standard with, right? So this is not a WCI. And because it's not a WCI, right, if you think it's a WCI, you're going to translate it as past time. That wouldn't make very good sense, would it? Because in the context, I'm giving commands here. Gather the people. Would it make sense for me to make the next verb a past time verb? No, because when you're commanding people to do things, have they done them yet? No. We have projected ourselves out of the past and into some future time frame because when I tell someone to do something, they have yet to do it, right? So that is another reason. This is why I'm belaboring this, is because you might forget that WCIs have the special pointing of the vav, but when you try to translate it like a WCI, it doesn't make good sense given the context, right? Gather the people, and I, past time, cut a covenant with them, right? That doesn't make sense. So what am I looking at here? I'm actually looking at a normal vav attached to a prefix form with an aleph in front, and what's on the back side here? I've got a kamete, right? So you tell me, what conjugation pattern is this among my new volitional forms? Yes, this is a cal cohortative. With the prefix aleph, it's not 1CP, but 1CS, right? So if I were parsing this, it would be karat. Oops. Got a little ahead of myself. Put the T before the R. It's like putting Descartes before Deshorse, right? Karat. So cal cohortative 1CS plus the conjunction vav. This tells me that I know that this is not a WCI, okay? That this is truly a cohortative that simply has a normal conjunction vav. Okay, and when I have an imperative followed by some volitional prefix form with a normal vav like a cohortative, I could translate the cohortative literally, gather the people, and let me cut a covenant with them. Gather the people and let me cut a covenant with them. But when you think about it, what's going on here is my cutting the covenant with them is really semantically dependent upon you all gathering the people to me, right? Like this happens first, and then as a result, the second thing will happen. And because of that, it's also appropriate to translate the second one, which is consequential upon the first one, as indicating purpose. So you could translate this as gather the people in order that, or so that I may cut a covenant with them. Okay? So this is what Ross referred to as the volitional sequences at the very end of chapter 20. So gather the people that I may make a covenant.
That first verb is really going to indicate what that second verb is as far as identifying that, whether it's a WCI or WCP. Because if that first verb would have been into perfect, it would have made sense for it to be the WCI, correct?
Well, yeah, the context would have made allowable, but the vavs pointing with that vocal shiva there, the form would tell you don't treat that as a WCI because it's not that and it can't be that, right? If it were a true WCI, the vav would always have an A-class vowel under it, va, right? Va. It's always going to be va, va, va. And this is v, right? Vocal shiva. So that's the main reason why you don't want to parse that as a WCI or a vayiktal. Okay? But the context with that imperative in front is an additional feature that should keep you from making that mistake if you forget that the vowel pointing is not a WCI vowel pointing. All right. Was somebody else asking a question?
Yes, on number 8,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the whole thing.
Right.
I just wanted to know why the Tava is not she wrote.
Ah, yes.
I thought it was a 3 MS.
Very good question. All right. Thanks for bringing that up. You just made my day and you ruined everybody else's. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So take a look at this form. Is there a shiva following what looks like a kametz? This is that ambiguous sequence of vowel pointing where the metheg's presence or absence helps us, right? Because if I'm trying to figure out, do I vocalize the shiva or not, I look to the right. When I look to the right, that's ambiguous. That could be long A or short O. It could be the kametz or the kametz ketuf. So what do I do next? I look to the left and ask, is there a metheg? And the answer is no. And if there's a no, there's an O in no. Which one of these is it? The long A or the short O? It's the short O. That's right. So if this is a short vowel, then the shava is what? Silent. That's right. Remember, short, silent. Look to the right. If it's short, the shava is silent. So this is not kathava, which is the cow perfect 3FS. Rather, it's kotva. Kotva. Now, what in the world is kotva? Well, this is the alternate cow imperative. Sorry for my I and M. That's all mashed together. It's an alternate imperative 2MS form. Okay? Do you remember how the cohortative has a comma te on the back side of it? This alternate 2MS imperative also has a comma te. When we were going through our lesson on this, let me pull that up here. We worked through this handout. I neglected to tell you this when we first went through the imperative forms, but by the time we got to the end of the handout, I mentioned here that we've got this situation here where the 2MS is pakod, but there's an alternate form, pokda, pokda. And there that's a kametz ketuf, okay? Look at all the other volitional forms here. The feminine singular imperative has a kirik yod at the end. The masculine plural has a shurik. Feminine plural has na. Not a kametz he, but a nun kametz he. So this kametz he that we're seeing on the 2MS, that's not a feminine marker. That's really a marker of volitionality, or it at least accompanies volitional forms like the cohortative, and then in this case the 2MS imperative alternate form. Okay? Do not associate that with being feminine, because in all of the second person forms, there is no kametz he marking anything in the imperative system. There's just not a there's not a kametz he ending in the imperfect. So this kametz he is volitional. All right. So that's what we're dealing with over here. Kotva is just an alternate way of saying kathov, which is the imperative. So kathav means to write. So I'm issuing a command to a 2MS subject. Write these words. So that's what that is. Ross also points out this alternate form too. And you do see it. It's not infrequent in the Hebrew Bible. So kathov is normal, kotva, not as normal, but frequent. You need to just remember, you gotta ask yourself, what vowel do I truly have under root 1 when there's no prefix? Because this could be the perfect, the participle, or the imperative. And if it's that long A, it's the perfect. But you got to be able to tell the difference between a kametz and a kametz ketuf. And this goes all the way back to chapter 4, doesn't it? You can never leave behind the baby steps that you started out with. So it's not kathava, but kotva. Okay, let's look at number 3. I'll read it out loud and you can hear how it sounds. Shemor et chatzi hatzon umakarta li et hachatzi ha'acher. Now, let me go ahead and highlight the verbs for you. And I'm going to assume that you know that Hebrew frequently has verbs first, and that shamar is an identifiable verb. And then here's the second verb, umacharta. Remember, machar has to do with selling, to sell makar, right? You got to sell makar. So let's go ahead and identify our root letters. Shamar is an identifiable verb. Makar is an identifiable verb. Now let's fill in the details. Is there a prefix before the sheen here? Nope. So the 3 possibilities are, this is a cow perfect, a cow participle, or a cal imperative? Which one of these is going to be possible when I have a vocal shiva under root 1? Looking at the imperative. That's right. Which imperative form has no ending? To MS, right? To MS. Here, if you're using this little chart that I have on my website that I've asked you to print out, okay? This is where the 3 root letters are represented by indiscriminate boxes, and I'm just looking at the personal endings and prefixes, okay? If you look at the imperative section, notice that what are my possibilities? It's 0 if it's 2MS, Keurig Yod if it's 2FS, Shurik if it's 2MP, and Na if it's 2FP. Okay? All of them are used, but they're either singular or plural use and male or female use. Okay? So what am I looking at? On that exercise, I'm looking at the imperative with no ending, and that's the 2MS one that we just saw. Okay? And of course, it's in the cal. So that's our parsing. Shamar, cal imperative 2MS. So I'm commanding one person to shamar. What does shamar mean? Yeah, to guard or to keep. Now, until we know what we're guarding or keeping, we're not sure which of those is going to be the better translation. So let's see what is he commanding someone to guard or keep. We have et chatzi hatzon. What is chatzi? It's half. Okay? Now notice that there's an et in front of half. So is this et the preposition with, or is this the sign of the accusative marking a definite direct object? What do you think? Okay. It would appear to be a sign of the accusative. One reason that we might think so is that shamar, meaning to keep or to guard, is transitive and should take a direct object, right? And so it would make sense for a direct object marker to be there. But here's the question. If this is the direct object marker, it only is used if the direct object is what? Definite. Chatzi does not have the article. So is it definite anyway? And if so, what would make it definite? Okay, I'm hearing something about the following word, but when does the following word matter? If this is in a, that's right. If this is in a construct chain, is it? That's the question. If it's in a construct chain, then thing 2's definiteness ensures the definiteness of thing 1. And is that definite, thing 2? Yep, I've got my article on it. So yeah, so that's why there's a definite direct object marker here, okay? So you keep half of the sheep, or you keep the half of the sheep, okay? In English, we don't like to put the word the in front of half, but in Hebrew we know that this whole expression is definite because of the second thing being definite, okay? So you keep half of the sheep, or the flock. Makarta. Now I have 3 root letters, a vav in front, and ta on the back side. Is ta characteristic of the perfect or the imperfect conjugation? Imperfect? Perfect. The perfect conjugation has ta. And notice that this perfect conjugation verb has a shurik, which is a vav in front of root 1. Okay? There's no nutty prefix. I know this is not a WCI, but might it be a WCP, what's frequently called a vav consecutive perfect, a perfect form with a vav in front of it that indicates non-past time? Well, that would certainly be possible. Is there an accent on the ta at the end here? Where does the accent normally go on the perfect? I'm usually trying to put it on root 2, right? Makar, makara, then makarta, makart, makarti. Like pakadta, pakad, pakadti. But the accent shifted to the end. That is also characteristic of WCPs. Okay? The consonantal endings could take the accent on the end when they normally don't. So, which person gender number is ta? It's 2ms. Okay? What do I have going on here? I have over here an imperative followed by a WCP in a sequence. What does that mean? When I have WCPs following verb forms like the imperfect or the imperative or the jussive, it's going to take on the nuance of the initial verb. If the initial verb is a verb of command, then my WCP form will also have the nuance of command or instruction. So it's keep half the sheep and sell. Or keep half the sheep and you shall sell, still with this volitional nuance. I'm telling you what I want you to do. And sell me et hachatzi ha'acher. And sell to me the half of the other. Okay? Or the other half. Here chatzi has the article, right? And that's why the definite direct object marker is used. Ha'acher is an adjective that is attributively modifying hatzi. Notice I have ha here, right? The half, the other. Sell me the other half. Okay, so I can't remember who asked that question, but does that help you with understanding how to translate and understand this? All right, good.
Dr. Marshall,
Mm-hmm.
on this, do we have any clues in the little sentence fragment we have whether "li" means or for me? Are we buying the sheep or are we having them sell our sheep?
Oh, okay. You know what? That's a great question. We don't have enough context to know for sure whether that's sell them to me or sell them for me. So yes, if I'm a buyer in the context, sell them to me. But if I'm the owner of the sheep and I want to get rid of them, then sell them for me. My guess is that this is the, well, I guess it could go either way. I was just thinking if he says keep half and sell the other half, either the speaker is the owner of the whole set and is granting half for him to keep. Yeah, trying to think. You have to sort of, your mind has to do gymnastics to try to figure out possible scenarios. But, well, I would take 2 or 4 in this case. It seems to me that both are plausible scenarios could be devised. Okay. Any other questions to go over real quick before we move on?
Dr. Marshall.
Yes.
Without doing the entire thing, in number 1 and number 2, can you just tell me whether those are WCP, WCI, or regular vowels?
Okay. Yeah. Let's take a look here. So number 1, we have likdu otam. What's lakad? To capture, right. Can you tell that that's an imperative by that kirik under the lamed, root 1? Okay, remember, if it's perfect, it's la, lakad, lakada. If it's participle, it's lo, located. Okay. If it's the imperative, it's either le code or lick do, lekodna. So I've got the imperative. So this is a command, capture. Who's being commanded? The Shurik tells me it's second masculine plural. You guys, capture them. And so now, in light of the imperative here, I have another verb, okay, in sequence with the imperative. This verb has 3 root letters, tem on the end, which is characteristic of the perfect, isn't it? Vav on the front. So I'm going to take that as a WCP, an imperative followed by a WCP, which means that this WCP will have the flavor of the imperative. Capture them, and lakach is to take. And so this is to MP, WCP. So it's capture them and take them, or capture them and you shall take them, ha'ira, to the city. Okay? So this is a cal WCP to MP. Okay? Is that clear? All right. Now look at number 2. I have nishlacha oto. Nishlacha. Here's my 3 root letters. Shalach. What's shalach mean? It's to send or send forth. I have a prefix noon before the shin, comma te on the back side. That is dead giveaway, textbook, cohortative, 1 CP, right? How am I going to translate that then? Yeah, let us send. Or let's send. Let's send him habaitha. Let's send him houseward, right? To the house. I've got this unaccented comma te at the end of bayit. You know bayit doesn't have a comma te on the end of it normally. And that comma te is unaccented because the ethnic marks the accent as on the bet. Habayita. So this is to the. This is the directional hey. So let's send him to the house. And now I have v'yishkav. Look at the 3 root letters shakav here. I have a prefix yod, but I also have a prefix vav. And the question is this vav pointed in such a way that I could take this as a WCI with past time semantics? What's the answer to that? How do I know? I got to look at the vav's vowel pointing. Is there an A-class vowel under the vav? No. Is there a dagesh forte in the yod? No. Okay? It does not have any of the characteristic vowel pointing of the WCI. So this is not a WCI. It's not a vayiktol. It's not past time. This is a imperfect or adjussive. It's ambiguous here, right? It's imperfect or adjussive. And with the prefix yod with no ending, it's 3ms. Okay? But look, it's coming on the heels of and in sequence with the cohortative. It's a cal imperfect or adjussive plus a conjunction vav. So when I have that, usually the second verb has the nuance of purpose. Let's send him into the house in order that he may lie down there. Okay? In order that he may lie down there. His lying down is consequent upon the verb being carried out that I'm expressing my will to happen, right? He won't lie down unless we send him. So that's why when you put these 2 forms together, usually what I'm commanding to happen is so that this will be the result or the consequence of it. And that's why purpose is usually a good way to translate it. Let's send him to the house that he may lie down there.
If we're ready to move on, I need some clarification on number 7.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that I struggled to find any help in Ross
adjustive maybe is
Mhm.
expressing a wish.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
good.
context?
No, well, yeah, so technically, yig all, that could be the cal imperfect or adjussive, right? They are identical. And then with no ending, it's 3ms either way. Okay? So my subject is Adonai. But what I don't know is whether the speaker, because I don't have any context here, I don't know whether the speaker is expressing the will for Yahweh to do it, which would be Jessuv, or whether he's just stating that Yahweh will do it. Okay? So how can I make a choice here? Here is the rule of thumb, okay? When I have ambiguous prefix forms that could be imperfect or adjussive, as here, if I have the negations, like I do in 4 and 5, that's one way that it can help me. Lo goes in front of imperfect. All goes in front of adjussive. But this is not being negated, so that can't help me here in number 7. The other thing that can help us is this. Adjussive verbs tend to be in first position. Okay? Whenever I have a prefix form in first position in Hebrew, that tends to signal a volitional form. Imperatives are going to be in first position. Cohortatives are going to be in first position. And adjussives will be in first position for the most part. And so here, I'm going to take this as adjussive, even though technically it could be imperfect in form. So may Yahweh redeem us. Okay? And then, go ahead.
Sorry. So another form of verb will not come first like that? I mean, that seemed to be standard for most of the verbs we've been seeing, that it comes first in the sentence.
Yeah. That's true. Like WCIs and WCPs have to come first, don't they? Ross is simplifying things for us in a lot of the translation exercises, but as a matter of fact, what does frequently happen in Hebrew is that usually Vav begins your sentences, and that Vav will either be followed by a verb form in the WCI or WCP variety, or usually Vav will be attached to a noun here, and then I'll either have a perfect or an imperfect after it in second position rather than first. Okay? And that's usually why when I have something that looks like an imperfect, but it's in first position, it's usually not the imperfect, but adjussive in first position there. Okay? This is going to be hard for you to really grab a hold of. So hopefully, as we look at more and more sentences as we go through our exercises, hopefully you'll be able to see this a little bit more. And I'll try to remember to point it out to you that this is what you're seeing. Okay? All right. Yep. Okay. Let's finish that off.